who is a medical student and is the liaison officer to the World Health Organization. He will give us a speech as a Doctor of Medicine of class 2012 of the University of the Philippines in Manila. And he will try to bridge the gap between the global health stakes and climate change, which I think is really interesting and really not everybody bridge the gap between global health and climate change, and especially young people. So I would like to welcome Renzo.
Thank you very much. Good morning. It's so nice to be here in Sciences Po. Professor Salame said a while ago that we have to bring the climate discussions outside of expert panels. I'm a physician. I'm not an expert in climate change, and I will never want to become an expert at all. I would love to be a lifelong student of the environment. That's why I'm here learning from you, with you. So I'm going to talk briefly about climate change and why we young doctors are also bothered at what's happening. Next slide. And a few weeks ago, I had a conversation with people not from the health sector. And I said, I'm a medical student, I'm involved in climate change. And they all laughed. And that was concerning because, on the other hand, it's surprising for a health person to be in a climate discussions. But on the other hand, people are actually not aware of why climate change is so vital and so important to us physicians, to the health sector, to the global health community. So that's why that will be the theme of my sharing this morning. Next slide, please. We doctors know that human health and the environment are by design interconnected and inseparable. And health is defined as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. And it's a reflection of society. It's a reflection of how healthy our environments are, whether it's a natural environment or the built environment. And right now, climate change is a big issue. Urban health is an issue that we are confronting with. And so we really need to address environment in order to create more health. Next. And even Hippocrates, who is the father of medicine, he reminded us that medical students should learn or understand the seasons, the winds, the water, the environmental determinants of health, because at the end of the day, all these shape the health of our patients and our populations. And even the Lancet, which is a world-renowned medical journal, it said that climate change is the biggest global health threat of the 21st century. It's not just the virus or the bacteria or the lack of healthcare systems in many countries. It's climate change that we are going to face in this century. Next. And there has been a huge and growing evidence about climate change and its impact on health, droughts leading to famine, leading to malnutrition, viruses, emerging viruses, bacteria, malaria will be on the rise, leptospirosis and other infections because of flooding, and many other diseases. And a lot of the diseases are actually climate sensitive. They change drastically depending on climate, and as world temperature rises, you expect more like diarrhea, malaria, and many other diseases. I'm just borrowing this slide from the World Health Organization, which has done a lot of studies on the impact of climate change on health. And the Philippines, where I come from, I'm very proud to say that we're the number 6 most vulnerable country in terms of climate change impact, and number 3 most vulnerable to disaster risk and natural hazards. In fact, right now, if you Google for the Philippines, you'll see that the capital city, Manila, is a water world. And before, usually by September, the typhoon season has already ended, but it's already approaching November, and we still have a lot of typhoons. Typhoons have become more severe, more frequent, more erratic, and our healthcare system is the one bearing the brunt of climate change and disasters. This is a picture from my own university. Come on, how can you go to the library if it's like this? And then next slide. These are our streets in Manila, in the capital city. And you know that because of flooding, you have an increase in leptospirosis. And you see leptospirosis patients on a daily basis. This is just an illustration to show you that every year around 20 typhoons visit the Philippines. We're beside the Pacific Ocean where most of these typhoons come out. Next. And Rudolf Virchow, who is a German physician, the father of social medicine, he said that we physicians are the natural attorneys of the poor. We see the plight of the poor firsthand inside the clinic. But the problems cannot be solved inside the clinic. We can just give a treatment, but the ultimate solutions are outside the hospital and the clinic. And we have the obligation to point out the problems and to attempt to find their theoretical solutions. That's why I'm here talking to political science students, lawyers, economists, etc., begging you, come on, let's please come up with really radical solutions to climate change because it's a lot of our patients are suffering. And we have to adopt this social determinants of health approach. Social determinants of health, the living conditions, conditions where people are born, grow, live, age, and die. And we have to combat all these determinants of health, from the more downstream determinants inside the community to more upstream ones like globalization, trade, and unfortunately climate change. And social determinants are responsible for creating a lot of health inequalities within and between countries. For example, the life expectancy ranges from around 48 in Africa to around 90 in Japan and in the rest of the highly industrialized countries. Next. And that inequalities will be worsened because of climate change. The map of the world below shows that Africa and Asia will suffer the most in terms of the health impact of climate change. And unfortunately, climate change is rooted in much, much more underlying deeper determinants. And what's that determinant? The toxic combination of poor social policies and programs, unfair economic arrangements, and bad politics. These are the real diseases of our time, according to the World Health Organization Commission Social Determinants of Health. And the basic question of us doctors is, what good does it do to treat people's illnesses only to send them back to the conditions that made them sick? To the community that is not climate resilient, to a community that will face typhoons all the time, and therefore, what's the point of treating all these injuries and stuff? So we really need action from outside the health sector. We need health in all policies, at national and global levels. That's why climate change policy should always consider the health implications, especially to populations. Next. But we're not just watching you, young doctors. We are also doing our share. Next. We are educating our fellow medical students and nursing students, etc., about the health impacts of climate change and what we can do in order to strengthen the health sector so that we can face the health impacts. We are educating communities about climate change. We're not talking about CO2 or cap and trade. We're talking about how climate change will change their diseases, the profiles of these diseases, because those are the things that have real impact on their personal lives. We educate our fellow students about disaster preparedness, especially in Asia, because as I've said, we are at risk in terms of disasters, and we are responding to communities that suffer the brunt of climate change disasters. There's a talk about climate refugees, and a lot of people are now being displaced because of disasters due to climate change. We are also present in COPs in Copenhagen, in Durban, in Cancun, and we will be in Doha. And we have been trying to put the health language in the climate negotiations. In fact, we are partners with the World Health Organization in championing this cause. And we were in Rio Plus 20, emphasizing on the co-benefits of addressing environmental issues to health. That sustainable transport will be good in addressing non-communicable diseases like obesity or respiratory illnesses and so on and so forth. And finally, the Universal Declaration on Human Rights said that everyone has a right to health, and everyone has the right to standard of living adequate for health. And climate change is affecting the standard of living adequate for health. Hence, my conclusion is climate inaction is a violation of the right to health. And finally, I've been looking for a French philosopher, but I found a German one, so I apologize. Arthur Schopenhauer said, health is not everything, but without health, everything is nothing. And so I hope that we will put health at the center of climate negotiations, and I hope that climate action will help us achieve health for all in our generation. Thank you very much.